Are you renting? Do you own a property in this neighborhood? How are you here? I have embraced some parts of British culture, and even the way that I speak is totally different from how I spoke when I came. So you can imagine when you go to Zimbabwe and you speak and people are just like, tell me where you have been to. You feel like you don't belong, you feel like you don't fit in. They don't want to associate with you because they're like, you are too different for our comfort. Kind of like stuck in the middle. You're just like, who are my tribe? Who are my people? Hi guys, my name is Shumi, and today I'm talking about the challenges that immigrants face when they are living in the diaspora. And I'm going to share taking it from my own personal experience. I am originally from Zimbabwe. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe and lived there for the first 18 years of my life. And I then moved to the United Kingdom, and I've been in the UK for almost 25 years. So as you can see, as you can hear, the longest time period is in the UK. The UK has been the place that I've lived the longest. It is the country that I've lived the longest. But the truth of the matter is that my formative years, my foundational years, were in Zimbabwe. That is where I learned my values. That is where I learned to interpret the world. That is where I learned how to deal with relationship. That is where I got my education all the way through to sixth form. So we need to take that into context. So what has prompted me to make this video? I think this morning I just kind of got tired of being split into worlds. Like, I was just like, God, who am I? You are somebody who is a mixture of two cultures. You are a mixture of British culture and you're a mixture of Zimbabwean culture. You are not fully British, as in 100% British culture. That's all that is about you. And neither are you 100% fully Zimbabwean, because you left Zimbabwe a long time ago. And who do I belong to? Can somebody understand my struggle? And this came about in the sense that as a YouTuber, you try to find your community, you try to find your tribe. And on YouTube as it is right now, there are Zimbabwean YouTubers, like YouTubers who are in Zimbabwe right now, and they've never been outside of Zimbabwe, in terms of they've never lived outside of Zimbabwe. So they have got experiences of life in Zimbabwe uninterrupted, or life unbroken. If you were to ask them about life in 2008, they would tell you 2008 we struggled and this and that and that and that. And then on the other side, there are YouTubers like Lesson World, people who left Zimbabwe over 20 years ago. And we have got the experience of both worlds. We've got the experience of living in Zimbabwe, and then we've got the experience of living in the UK. But we also have the experience of being away from Zimbabwe and not having experienced some of the sufferings and chapters of Zimbabwean life that make Zimbabweans on Zimbabwean soil feel like we are Zimbabweans, we've lived through it. Those experiences are foreign to us. We only hear about them, but we don't really grasp them and comprehend them. So back to YouTube. You can find YouTubers who are from Zimbabwe, and then they find your channel, they see that you are there, and they just don't want to interact with you. They don't want to engage with you because they're like, you are different from us. And some of them will be like, oh, and you don't speak like a Zimbabwean anymore. So they don't want to associate with you. They're like, what kind of Zimbabwean speaks like that? What kind of Zimbabwean troubles like that, like, who are you? You are no longer Zimbabwean. Then at the same time, if you try and associate with purely British YouTubers, they are just like, you look different, and then they'll be like, you eat different, and then they might be like, oh, you think different, and they don't want to associate with you because they're like, you are too different for our comfort. So pure Zimbabweans, they don't want to have anything to do with you. Then the pure Britishers, they're also like, we don't want to have anything to do with you. So you, as someone who is Zim Brit, if I could say that, you're kind of like stuck in the middle. You're just like, who are my tribe? Who are my people? And yeah, I've been kind of feeling lost. So it really has been a challenge, and embarking on this YouTube journey has really made me think a lot, because I remember at some point watching like YouTubers who were like traveling around Zimbabwe and everything, and I'm just like, you know what, I wish I was in Zimbabwe. I wish I was the one who was making like vlogs at Victoria Falls. I wish I was the one who was making the vlogs at Matopo Hills. I wish I was at Great Zimbabwe. I wish I was at Mbare Musika with my GoPro and everything. But the truth of the matter is that I am not there. And I'm not in a place right now where I can afford to be in all these places in Zimbabwe that I would want to be at. And it's just the way that it is. So if I still want to tell stories through videos, through films, it means that I have to tell my stories from where I am at, and I'm in the UK. So I'm walking around with my GoPro or with my phone, and I'm taking videos in, let's say, Guildford, Surrey, which is one place that I've been to, or maybe I'm walking around Buckingham Palace, or maybe I'm in Windsor, or maybe I'm in Chatham, or maybe I'm in Coventry, or maybe I'm in Scotland. But then you might be in these places, but I don't know. I'm back. Had a bit of an interruption. Yeah. And we're saying that you might be in these places, and let's say it's me who's gone to Windsor Castle, and then I post my video on YouTube, and I might post a background of Windsor Castle on the thumbnail, and then if I put my headshot like on that video, chances are that video won't be viewed. Few people will actually click it, because they're just like, this black person, this African woman, these African features are saying come to Windsor, and they're like, how, on what grounds? And people don't watch it. So it just makes you think and think and think and think, like, where do I belong? What do I do if I'm going to travel in the UK? Does my channel have to be faceless if I'm going to be a travel vlogger in the UK? Because this will not be readily accepted. Like, on what grounds, on what authority are you telling us about Covent Garden? I actually had somebody comment on one of my videos, like, it's very interesting that a Zimbabwean is the one who's telling us about this British place. I'm like, oh, okay. And then again, you then think, like, when we were in Zimbabwe, there were a lot of like travelers, expats, explorers, people who came to Zimbabwe, and they made a lot of content about Zimbabwe. They made a lot of content about Victoria Falls, about tourist attractions, and people would watch. So why is it different when I am Zimbabwean, black Zimbabwean, and I'm now doing videos showcasing England? Or I'll be like, this is the River Thames. Why is it hard for my videos to be clicked on if I put my face on the thumbnail? Why? What are we dealing with here? So the issue of being accepted in your new country is something that follows you everywhere you go. And I'm sure many migrants and immigrants can testify to that. You might have lived in a country for over 2 decades like I have, but the moment that people see you, they're like, where are you from? Where are you originally from? They hear your accent, they're like, tell me more. Were you born here? Were you raised here? What made you come here? So you can't divorce yourself from that. You can't. You just cannot. Hence the feeling that I personally have when I go to Zimbabwe, the moment that I get to Harare, that I get to the airport, I literally feel like a big weight has been taken off my shoulders. I literally don't feel like I have to explain myself. I don't have to explain my presence. I feel a sense of belonging that I cannot express. I walk on the street and nobody questions me why I'm there. I walk in a neighborhood and nobody has to do a double take like, how are you in this neighborhood? What makes you be here? Do you own a property in this neighborhood? I have heard such questions posed to me like, are you renting? Do you own a property in this neighborhood? How are you here? But when you walk in Zimbabwe, you shed those questions away from you. You do shed those questions away from you. But one thing that I've realized is that because I've been in the UK for very, very long, of course, I have embraced some parts of British culture, and even the way that I speak is totally different from how I spoke when I came. So you can imagine when you go to Zimbabwe and you speak and people are just like, tell me where you have been to, or tell me where you are coming from. You are not from here. So again, though you are now back home, you're having to explain yourself. I'm just like, God, when shall I ever stop having to explain myself? When? Where shall I ever stop having to explain myself? So this is the situation that I find myself in. And I bet you that there are many migrants all over the world who will share the same experiences that I have, the same sentiments, face the same challenges that I have. And it's an interesting position to be in, because at the same time, you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the best of Zimbabwe that you bring to the table, and you've got the best of Britain that you bring to the table. And if you live in another country besides Britain, let's say you're in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa, or whichever foreign country that you're in, you also get to bring the best of that country, because that country also molds you. So if you were to ask me today, like, which country I love the most, I'll tell you I love both. I love Zimbabwe and I love the UK, because both places have made me the lesson world, the person that I am today. So I love them equally. I'm passionate about Zimbabwe. I'm passionate about Great Britain. They have made me who I am. So how can I not love them? It's like having two parents. You've got your mom and you got your dad. You love them both. You just love them both because both of them have made you who you are. This first generation migrant experience is something. And on the same note, thinking about first generation migrants, there are challenges that first generation migrants experience and have experienced that I think that's a video on its own. That's another video on its own. There are challenges that you face. For example, if you carry a foreign name, and I have been in a situation where I was literally nameless because somebody that I worked with was not willing to pronounce my surname. They were not willing to. And it's like a slap in your face where when somebody just decides that I'm not gonna bother with her name, I'm just not gonna bother. It's like discarding somebody. Yet for me, English is not my first language, but when I hear your name, I'll be like, you know what, it might be a bit of a tongue twister for me, but I shall learn your surname and I shall address you by your surname or your first name. But you hear my first name and you hear my last name and you're just like, no, I'm just gonna call her Miss, or I'm just gonna call her nurse, or I'm just gonna call her teacher. I think it's not on. It's not on. I think basic principles of living cordially, politely, humanely with other people is that you learn their names and you address them by their names. It's just general politeness, acceptance. If somebody were to disregard you in the same way, it stabs, it hurts. And life has got a funny way of just turning. You don't know what's around the corner. One moment you might be in your home country, but you don't know, maybe 2 years down the line, or maybe even 2 weeks down the line, you might find yourself in a different country. Things happen in strange ways. Wars can erupt just like that, and you then find yourself as an immigrant. And you will remember this video, or you might remember this video, that Lesson World spoke about these issues not being acknowledged, being questioned, why I'm walking in a particular neighborhood, why I'm working in this role, where I got educated. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. I think we need to offer ourselves grace, because at the end of the day, whether we are black, whether we are white, whether we are Zimbabwean, whether we are Canadian, whether we are New Zealanders, whether we are South Africans, whether we are Ethiopians, whether we are Afghanistani, whether we are Iranians, at the end of the day, we just all want to live a good life. And the fact that we all want to live a good life is what makes people move countries. And this has been happening since time immemorial. Immigration has been happening for centuries and centuries and centuries. And even after we are gone, it will continue to happen, because there will always be push factors, reasons that make people leave their countries of birth, and there'll always be pull factors, factors that make people desire to live in a different place, in a different country, in a different nation. So I just thought that I would share a bit about my immigrant experience, first generation immigrant experience, and how it's been like for me. If you would like to see more content like this, please hit the subscribe button, do like this video, leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts, and share the video out so that more people can jump into this discussion in the comment section. And maybe you can give me ideas on other content to share on this channel. This is Lesson World, where we learn together and where we travel together. Yes, you shall see travel videos on this channel. I'll leave some travel videos on the end screen. Do watch them, and ciao.